the stuff is fixed.
What?
The casing around the wire. It's not
Oh,
hanging
wow.
down anymore.
That's weird.
I did dust it. Remember last time we had the hanging cobweb?
Did you push it up and you dusted it? and put-
Maybe I fixed it with dusting, a little dust.
Maybe this, the dust and the cobwebs are weighting it down.
That's what it looks like.
It looks like it was replaced from just over the door all the way over there, or repainted.
You know, what we're talking about
Municipal court.
the wire molding above the door that was hanging down at an
It's
angle.
a,
Did you have that fixed?
Yes, I'll take credit.
She did.
maybe Carl did it.
Someone, there's your house coming in right now.
Oh, I just, look, I'm looking out here and going, wait.
Oh, good to see you.
All right, 7 o'clock, so I'm going to start the meeting. Let's rise and do the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we're going to bypass the public comments till after we get reorganized here, and so I'm going to open the floor for nominations for chair. Any nominations?
I nominate Ivan Beatty for chair.
Anybody second that?
Second.
Nominated second. Is there any other nominations?
I would like to nominate a slate consisting of Ivan Beatty. And I don't know whether or not, since we've had one nomination, whether I can do this. But consisting of Ivan Beatty chair, Heidi Chamberlain as vice chair, and Lori Coons as secretary.
I think we already have
Nomination.
nomination on the floor, so we have to deal with that.
Yeah, that's what I
You
would
could
say.
nominate, if I may, you could nominate the other positions and then make a motion to cast them all as one ballot if there's no.
I would like to nominate Heidi Chamberlain as vice chair and Lori Coons as secretary.
Clerk.
So now,
Well, that needs a second. Oh, excuse me.
oh, sorry.
Excuse me,
We
Mr.
need a second. Any second?
I'll second that.
All right. So what do we do with the first?
Well, if I were at the chair, I would say, are there any other nominations? And then if there aren't any, we could just cast one vote for the three nominations.
Shouldn't the first motion be withdrawn or the first nomination be withdrawn?
Well, I'm wondering if we
You would
amend,
actually need another motion to combine them all as one slate. Or we could just take them individually.
Greg,
It's kind of weird to have two motions on the table at the same time.
that's
Yeah.
true. Why don't I suggest that you withdraw that motion and we go one by one? If you're okay
I'm
with
going
it.
to withdraw the motion.
All right.
Any efforts to save any time have already been foiled, so.
All right, we have a motion to nominate Ivan Beatty as chair. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Ivan, it's your meeting.
Thank you, everybody, for your vote of confidence. I'll see, hopefully I can live up to your expectations. Are there any nominations for the other two offices for which we'll be voting? That includes the vice chair and the clerk.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate as a slate Heidi Chamberlain as vice chair and Lori Coons as secretary.
Is there a second to that motion?
There was a
I'll
second.
second.
Are there any other nominations? Then hearing none, I'll call the question to elect Heidi Chamberlain as vice chair and Lori Coons as clerk. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? I heard 5, so that's 5-0. We have a slate of officers. Thank you very much. Now we'll go back to the agenda in its written order. This is the public comments portion of the meeting.
Before we get to that, could I ask that we add an agenda item?
Yes, you may.
We have a municipal planning grant resolution to be signed. So if we can put that anywhere, it doesn't matter. I just need to add it now before we get into the meeting.
Okay.
I just do it now.
Yes, instead of going in order, the request has been to insert this as an agenda item. If there's no one opposed to that, then I will go ahead and insert it and we'll take care of it right now.
Okay.
It's a resolution that says, whereas the municipality of Manchester is applying for funding as provided for in the FY25 Budget Act and may receive an award of funds under said provisions. And whereas the Department of Housing and Community Development may offer a grant agreement to this municipality for said funding. And whereas the municipality is maintaining its efforts to provide local funds for municipal and regional planning purposes, or that the municipality has voted at an annual or special meeting to provide local funds for municipal and regional planning purposes. Now therefore be it resolved that the legislative body of this municipality enters into and agrees to the requirements and obligations of this grant program, including a commitment to match funds, that the Municipal Planning Commission recommends applying for said grant by Planning Commission Chair Wilbur Rice, that Scott Murphy as town manager, who is either the chief executive officer as defined by 10 VSA subsection 683 parenthesis 8, or as a select board member, the town manager, blah, blah, blah. He is the town manager, is hereby designated to serve as the municipal authorizing official for the grant, electronic application and reporting system, in parentheses, the acronym GEARS, which is Grant Electronic Application and Reporting System, and to execute the grant agreement and other such documents as may be necessary to secure these funds. Alternate authorizing official for the redundancy would be Ivan C. Beatty, Select Board Chair, and it's the same language after that one. And I fit that description. And then 3C, that Scott Murphy as town manager is hereby designated as a grant administrator, the person with the overall administrative responsibility for the municipal planning grant program activities related to this application and any subsequent grant agreement provisions. And then there's a parenthetical clause that does not apply to us. And the legislative body will sign. So that's the grant. Is there a motion to approve the grant?
I'll move it. Move to approve the grant.
Second. And seconded by Greg. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I mean, I've got the,
What would happen if I was unsuccessful in my bid for chair? We'd have to redo this whole thing.
well, I've got one coming around here. It didn't have anybody's chair on it. It just had your names.
Oh,
So I wasn't sure. I didn't want to.
so I signed this one. I practiced.
That's Gordon's copy. You can
I
just
practiced signing it.
practice. So this is a $30,000 grant for a municipal planning grant for the town plan, which, as you'll see later on today, in the agenda, we're going to just soon to be completed our town plan. And yet this is for a new town plan. And as you know, Planning Commission has talked about revamping and restructuring the town plan into a more easily read document. So this is for the next town plan, not the one we're going to talk about tonight.
Okay,
Excellent.
that goes back.
Now, everybody's on this.
Thank you.
We'll go back to agenda item number 3, which is public comments section. If anybody has anything that they want to discuss that's not on the agenda, now would be the time to do so. Carl, Buckle.
Be brief. There's a,
Then go to the podium, though, Kyle.
Please. Here, we can pass those around. Okay.
Thank you.
Is this a thermal? I have a thermal. Yeah, you may not
Yeah,
have
I have
those,
that.
but I do, you do.
Yep, I do.
There are two people coming to town on April 9th. Debbie New, who is in charge of this Vermont Community Thermal Network, and her website's on the bottom of the page, and her engineer, Jared Rodriguez. And the two of them are giving their time to Manchester to try to get a thermal energy network up and running. I urge you to go on their website. There's a whole bunch of resource fact sheets.
Is it, what time is that going to be on the,
April 9th is going to be, the meeting
Yeah.
is going to be hopefully right here in the Equinox Room from 2 to 3. But my understanding is only 2 of you can attend.
Yeah.
Because they'll be discussing something that you hopefully
well, we
will
can't,
have to vote on at some point
right?
about actually.
Yeah, we can.
As long as you're not going to conduct business.
You can't conduct
Yeah,
business
we
or
can't, right.
discuss.
So I'm hoping that Jonathan can be one of the 5 of you because he's also on the Housing Task Force. And he's met with Debbie via Zoom, specifically talking about housing and how a thermal energy network could be incorporated into that. And he also attended the workshop at the library last October, where Debbie and Jared were both there. Jared, by the way, he normally charges $250 an hour. This guy is brilliant. Ask Tim Waker. Tim spoke with him at the end of that workshop, and they were going back and forth. Eric Subik from BBA met one-on-one with Jared, also came away very favorably impressed. This guy is smart. They're going to tour this building, public safety building, and Riley Rink prior to the 2 o'clock meeting here. So Jared can take a look at the systems and get a better sense of what's possible. These networks have to be within a quarter-mile radius. And you'll see, if you look at the website, it's capturing heat that's there already, what's being thrown off from the Riley Rink or compressors at Shaw's, wastewater that goes down the drain from like Equinox Hotel, any big business, or especially hotels. You're showering 120-degree temperature, it's going down the drain. So it's capturing that heat already and using it with basically a ground source heat pump technology. So I put on the backside of that fact sheet, it's specifically about electrification. I mean, we're hopefully going to have heat pumps here. And so a ground source heat pump, whether it's drilling holes or capturing heat that's already there, much more efficient than an air source heat pump, both for winter heating and summer cooling. You're starting with a temperature that's closer to where you want to wind up in both cases. So just as an example of Debbie New and how creative she is, when we were on the Zoom about the housing and talked about the, I'm not sure if it happened already, the sale of town property. And she's like, oh, you could put the money in a revolving loan fund, and then it could be dispersed however the town wants, you know, for housing, sewer projects, whatever. But you'd have that. It's just an example of how creative she is. So I'm hoping that, you know, one other person, I hope Jonathan, you will be there.
My list.
You know, can be there from the 2 to 3, and anybody else who wants to, you know, go along the Riley Rink is going to be at 12:30. And then these 2 town buildings at 1 and 1:30.
To reiterate and make it clear, all 5 members could attend. They cannot conduct business or discuss town business. They could ask questions individually, but not collectively. And, but we are allowed to attend for informational purposes, a forum such as this.
Okay. Yeah, you know that.
Yeah, we just can't conduct any business.
Okay.
Unless it's warned.
Good, great. Would any of you like to volunteer to be there at 2 o'clock, 2 to 3? And if you want to do the tour,
Yeah,
It's on my calendar.
Yeah, I put it on the calendar. I'm gonna try.
Okay. good,
should be able to.
that's all.
Will you just send a formal invite with the information on it to us, please?
Yes,
Not to be formal, but just,
I'm giving out 2. I do have 4 little reminder sheets.
No, sir.
We'll know that too.
Yeah.
Great.
I need a new one anyway.
Yeah,
Eliminated.
The town.
yeah, I can come over.
And then lastly, totally unrelated, I want to urge the select board to figure out some way to resurrect the Conservation Commission. There were a couple of things that originally were written into the new town plan for the Energy Committee to do, like identify deer wintering areas and stuff to do with woodlots. I'm like, wait a minute. That's a Conservation Commission thing, not an Energy Committee thing. So I don't know how you would do it. You know, put an ad in Front Porch Forum. I was looking for a couple of people to join the commission, whatever, however you want to do it. But, and I mentioned last time, it would be also good for the town to have a body that looks at the natural resources around town, forests, and with the eye of how can we mitigate floods in the future? What do we need to do to make the town more resilient?
The Conservation Commission has taken on a number of different forms over the years. And there was a period of time where we collaborated with Burr and Burton and appointed student members to all the various boards, including the Planning Commission and non-legislative boards. And unfortunately, that kind of fell apart, not from our end, because we thought it was a really good idea. But the students were really interested in being on the Conservation Commission as they applied. And I had to make it clear that it really was only meeting about twice a year and without any real direction. I agree. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity for it to be something beneficial to the town. And do we still have a Conservation Commission? That doesn't
The
exist.
Conservation Commission turned into.
Doesn't mean-
Energy Commission.
Well, yeah, that's what I thought.
That
I
was
thought it
what-
became the
that's- yeah.
energy.
It turned into,
Yeah.
Well, the members.
the commission was given the responsibility
Yeah.
to approve the energy
Well,
plan.
the Conservation Commission as well as the Energy Commission.
My understanding is Tom Ragland, Kathleen James, Michael Cooperman, and Dee Meervang are still on it. And maybe Leslie Berg, I'm not sure if she quit. But you may have 5 people technically
Yeah.
on the commission now.
All right, well, we can flesh that out a little bit. See.
Okay.
Yeah. That makes sense. Thank you, Carl. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other public comments? Anything you want to talk about that's not on the agenda? Now would be the time.
Can I just say something really quickly? I just wanted to thank Anita here for, last Thursday, we had a little 3rd grade class come through and Anita had, did a mock election in the clerk's office and it was so well received and the kids got to go to the public safety facilities and the community food cupboard and it was just awesome. It was such a great experience for them. So thanks to everybody in police, fire and rescue, and particularly to Anita for accommodating all those little monsters.
I'm actually going to be reaching out to other students, other schools, asking, why don't you bring your kids to us?
Yeah.
Like, let's get them involved in civic
Yeah.
engagement at a young age, so.
All the kids all sat right here. It was so cute.
You know, it's funny that's certainly it follows the example of what we were trying to do with having students involved with the boards. On some of the boards, they couldn't be a voting member because of legal reasons, but to get them involved in civic responsibility and maybe get some interest going so that when they became adults, and you can never start too early with making,
I
making
think,
civics fun.
Burton does have a AP, I want to say AP government class now. And I think those kids are incredibly eager to get involved. So that I think that's a fantastic idea. Especially now when civics are something that we need to be focused on.
Yeah.
A lot. I think that that's something we should be revisiting.
I will say it broke down on the Burton end. You know,
Right.
we just weren't getting applications and there was no follow-up.
Mhm.
And maybe with the new advanced placement
Yeah.
civics, it might work. Any other public comments? Seeing no hands up, we have agenda item number 5, which is the annual approval of select board meeting rule. Jonathan, thank you for your follow up on that. I think that is the most recent version that you put together for us.
Yeah, there was on the first version that I sent back, there was a typo that still referenced Kilburn's convenience store.
Yes.
So that on the most recent version changed to Manchester Community Library, because that's where our free digital bulletin.
So are there any proposed changes to the select board meeting rules based on the most recent version that we have?
I had a question about like enforcement.
Yeah.
For the virtual meeting protocols that have been recommended by the state.
Yeah, that was really interesting. You know, we hadn't followed up on that. And for instance,
First names.
yeah, what the select board rules, and I don't have it in front of me, but basically what it says is that
They have to identify them.
so people need to identify themselves. I think we try to get into the minutes who was in attendance, and that's why we have a sign-in sheet here. And so I don't know, it might be rather time consuming to try to have everybody identify themselves at the beginning of the meeting. So I don't know how we would go ahead and implement that. But certainly if somebody speaks, we would want to know their.
Yeah, not just,
identify themselves.
right.
And in the minutes, we typically don't identify the virtual attendees.
We put what they put up. So for instance, I think Carol is up there right now. So we have Carol, or we have Robin's iPad. Unless they speak and we can identify them,
Okay.
or they identify themselves.
So one of the things last year that I think we were attempting to do at one of the meetings, I want to say it was one of the meetings that we had at the library, Bonnie and I worked on putting together a electronic sign-in as like the way to, on the splash page when they
That'd
get
be
to the
really
waiting
helpful. That would
room.
be really helpful.
Here's the link. I think the only challenge is that we've limited the chat functionality so that people can't actually communicate, and that's typically where those are shared. So we would have to consider posting. No, we could share as, I believe, as a host and restrict comments coming back. But one of the other things that I thought about, I think this was a year ago, was we don't have ways to be notified if something is wrong in the actual meeting. Unless they raise their hand, of course,
Scott.
they can't hear us.
Do you have access to the chat area of the Zoom meeting? So if anybody is on there, that they could sign in on the chat side in Zoom, and then you,
I don't know. Haven't used the chat function.
So it's been
Anything.
turned off on, because I remember working with Bonnie on the
Mhm.
Google settings, but we could for these meetings.
so that people who don't have their name up.
And it could be a
there,
one-way.
Everybody could sign in on the chat, and then we could capture that somehow.
Well, that was the control there was actually on the Cat TV side,
Oh,
right? So Cat TV is sharing the video feed on Facebook, right?
okay.
And that's how they share their video.
So, I mean, what the rule says is that all virtual attendees must identify themselves using their first and last name visibly displayed, or must be identified before participating. I mean, that's kind of what we're doing now.
Mhm.
It's or. And so we don't make everybody give us their full name as they sign in, but if they participate, they need to give us their name, or we need to know what their name is so we can get it into the minutes. So,
That works.
Yeah, that,
there may be a cleaner way to do it, but I think the way we're doing it now is kind of meeting the spirit of the rule.
and it'll be recorded when you say, please identify yourself. So
Yeah.
you'll have it as a record.
I was just recalling, there wasn't, obviously, we talked about this earlier, that we can all attend, like all 5 of us could
And I-
attend the meeting, right?
Yeah.
But there was a planning commission meeting that I think Greg, Heidi and I were all at, and I didn't realize it because we didn't see who was on the screen, and we were all discussing
Mm.
things.
Oh,
So we could have been caught in quorum at that moment.
Hmm.
So that's
that's
kind of
interesting.
the visibility piece.
Well, I think you,
It's, again,
you know,
there would be nothing to prohibit a quorum of the board
Correct.
attending the meeting as long as they weren't discussing
Discussing, right?
amongst themselves
Sure.
town business. You're allowed to ask questions or make comments.
And that's not this meeting. I mean,
Yeah.
you're discussing this group's, this
Right.
body's rules right now.
Right. And then, yeah, that's,
Well-
this applies only to
And
us.
I would be happy to resurrect the form and just make it so that it's visible, because I'm just thinking for your own purposes of keeping track of who attends. That could be easier if someone like pops in, pops out, that type of thing. I know you're diligent about hitting yes to let them in and then writing it down, but keeping it consolidated might be something, and that wouldn't require us to open up chat functionality. We would just post the link as the host, and then that would go from there. I mean, we can look at that. It's not something we have to do right now, but
I think we asked them to identify themselves if they're.
If they're gonna talk.
And now it's recorded, it's on record.
well, and the other thing we could do is just ask, for most part, it's Jenny, Robin's iPad and Carol, right?
Right now.
If we,
right.
right, but those are the folks.
So when we have controversial items that's discussed,
We
we
get
get
a
a
lot.
lot more people. And some people don't want to be identified.
And that's why you don't want to create barriers to participation.
Right.
You want to have it be, but I understand there being, a need to have people identify.
Well,
when they
there is,
participate.
and we do have a sign-in, which
Mhm.
didn't get mentioned at this meeting, but usually does, on the table
Oh.
here. And if you didn't sign on the way in, please do so before you leave. So we have a record of who was here in attendance.
Right,
And we're supposed to track who attended. So I understand both sides of it. If there's a really easy functional way to have people say who they are, then I'm in favor of it, but I'm not particularly savvy on Zoom. And I'm not sure if I would be able to in its current form to be able to, I think I don't even know if my Zoom account works anymore. It said iBeatty. There's very few iBeattys in this town, so you'd probably know who it was.
or we would just see the top half of your head.
Yeah,
right, from
like
the camera.
Wilson on
Yeah.
Home Improvement. Okay, do we feel that this needs two questions? Do we feel that the language works the way it is?
Yes.
And if it does, are you comfortable the way we've been doing it
Yes,
up to this point?
yes.
Okay, that's good. And as chair, I should do a better job of having people identify themselves before they speak. Anything else on the select board rules?
Do we have to, I would be willing to continue serving as the designate member to review and approve spending and payroll warrants.
And I was the
So I
old,
think, and you're the alternate.
Alternate, yeah.
So I don't know if we do that now or if we do this first, but since it's part of this. I don't remember exactly what we did.
We usually do it at our organizational meeting.
Yeah.
And maybe,
Okay, so we'll get back, we'll adopt these and then do that after. Does that have to be added to the agenda? type data.
Well, if we approve the rules tell us that we have to fill those positions.
Mhm.
And as part of the same agenda item, I suppose we could
Nominate, yeah,
Together.
I'll chew on that.
designate.
The list for
The other appointments that we need to make, it was the-
just
Number
that one.
17,
Sorry.
right? Number 17, rule
Yeah,
17.
17 was the select board designate. And then I don't think, oh, well, the only other thing we could do is give ourselves a raise.
Yeah. Cost of,
Alright,
cost of living.
That's not on the agenda. That would be, that's.
I mean, that's in-
the
that's-
budget.
That's
for-
number 18.
The
the
budget,
stipend.
the budget for 2026 has already been approved.
Rule number 20, where it has newspaper of record. And the Manchester Journal is our newspaper of record. I'd like to add backup to be like Bennington Banner, because that's a daily.
When there's a
paper.
timing issue.
And sometimes there's a timing issue. We run into that, and the journal comes out once a week, and that's, so if we can add that to it, I should have thought of it. in
I've got it
advance.
here. What do you want to change it to? So you want to say the newspaper of record,
Gonna add
the
it.
Manchester Journal.
And or?
No, with a secondary source as Bennington Banner.
And the trouble with a weekly is they have a deadline, of course, also, so it can be more than a week's lag.
Absolutely.
Is
Don't
there,
write in under deadline for,
does their online version not count with that? Does it have to be printed?
That was-
A lot of them have to be printed, yeah.
Okay, because they do have two
Right,
daily,
right. No, I know it. I get that.
but it has to be
myself.
printed. Okay.
Yeah, we have to have printed copies to send in for a lot of grants. So it'd be good to have a backup that we could turn to if we needed it.
Does constituency gets that? Is that a little far out? I don't know if that's,
The backup.
So
I mean, I see your point. I'm just wondering, would anybody actually see the warning?
Well, we post in other places, so, and it's on our website usually also. So we get it out there, but it's a matter of meeting the requirements of the grant award.
Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, then I'm.
So the language I have for Rule 20 is the newspaper of record shall be the Manchester Journal. The secondary source shall be the Bennington Banner.
That's your proposal?
That's based on what we've discussed, yeah.
Oh, okay, you're right.
I think probably it should be a little more redundant and say the secondary newspaper of record.
Yep,
under-
that's fine.
People understand what we're saying.
And should you say if needed, just?
Yeah, something along those lines.
Because then it
Uh,
doesn't say like, we're always gonna have stuff in the Bennington Banner, but
Right, okay,
necessary or if
If
needed.
necessary,
if necessary, yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
That works for me.
should the need arise? Is it, I mean, there's a lot of.
If necessary works, great.
They have, use AI, give them what they're trying to say, and they'll.
See what AI tells us.
A little scary. Okay, so that's a proposed amendment. Are there any other? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the select board rules as amended.
I would like to make a motion to approve the select board rules as amended. Second.
Second is, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, that's 5-0. Rules are approved. Now, under
Yeah.
the same agenda item, the select board rules require that we fill a position, and we've normally had two positions for for signing the warrants. So,
Is this a nomination
Payroll.
or is this a continuum?
It's a designation.
it's a designation. You suggested that we continue the same individuals that are there now. Is there anybody opposed to that? If not, why don't we put it in the form of a motion that Greg Cutler be the signatory
Designate.
and the alternate was it you, Heidi?
Jonathan.
Jonathan. Good job.
Like to make a motion to designate Greg Cutler as the person who will be approving spending and payroll warrants with the alternate of Jonathan West. I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Congratulations. Okay. Oh, wow. We're finally getting around to approving the minutes.
Poor Dara's over there knitting a scarf, which I'm waiting to.
To ask for approval of the minutes of February 18th, 2025.
I think, or is this
Move to approve the minutes of February 18th, 2025.
second?
Moved and seconded. Those that were here can vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I believe that's 4-0 with one abstention.
Says our new,
Now,
I think you would, I'm
item number 7, hazard mitigation plan update.
not sure, hold on one second.
Wait a minute.
Maybe I
The
don't. have to
question
do it.
is, does the clerk, the new clerk sign those minutes or
Yeah,
are they
Right.
signed by maybe the chair? I'm not sure.
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. I think
Was-
the clerk,
She's the-
she's the clerk.
She's the clerk. She's
You're
the
the clerk.
existing clerk, so sign away
In the past, if the clerk
was unavailable.
was on if the clerk didn't attend the meeting of those minutes,
So,
that individual would still sign
yeah.
okay.
the document, because that was an action that was taken while you were at the table, or the clerk was at the table.
Sorry.
Yeah, good catch, though. That was a really good question. I like that. Dara,
Really?
Good. That's. Take it home when kids watch.
Okay.
Fight over it.
Thank you for having me here this evening. My name is Dara Zink and I work for Bennington County Regional Commission as the Emergency Management Program Manager. I have been working with the town of Manchester since this past June to update the town's hazard mitigation plan from 2016. The updated plan is currently open for public comment, and the team wanted to share the work that they have done with the select board and the public. Let's see if I can do this and talk at the same time. All right. Hazard mitigation plans are created by a community-driven process to identify hazards that impact the town and develop actions that can be taken to reduce risks and damages from hazards. These plans are one of the requirements by FEMA to access additional emergency relief and assistance fund funding after a hazard event. The planning process has 4 phases, and I will quickly recap each phase and the work that has been completed so far. So this past June, I think it was actually May, I was here and we went over what the process was going to be. This is just going to be a quick recap, what we actually did, and then I'll let everybody know that it's open for public comment. So the first phase was to organize the planning process and resources. So the planning area was the town of Manchester, and we used multiple resources to gather data. These resources are listed in section 4, table 6. I don't expect you guys to have this printed out or in front of you, but if you would like to refer to it in the future, I can share this presentation with Katie and she can make sure that you have it. So if you want to go back.
And Dara, they have the electronic version.
Oh, perfect. Great. It is 103 pages, so that's why you guys probably print it. So task 2 was building the planning team, and the planning team consisted of the town manager and EMD, Scott Murphy, the chief of police, Chief Owens, and Lieutenant Blanchard, the director of public works, Jeff Williams, the chief operator of the water and sewer department, Eric Severance, the zoning administrator, Peter Brabazon, and his assistant, Elias, and the executive director of North Shire Rescue Squad, Katie Von Dale, and the operations administrator, Katie Dixon. So we actually moved ahead by accident. Let's go back. Here we go. Task 3 was to create an outreach strategy. The team decided to obtain community feedback via a public survey that was available to the community by paper copies at the town hall and an online version with notices posted at the post office, Discount Beverage, Manchester Police Department, and the Manchester Community Library. And the responses can be found in Appendix 3 of the plan, if you're curious about those. Phase 2 was to assess the risks. As a planning team and utilizing historical data, future projections and survey results, each hazard from the 2016 plan was evaluated and the top 8 hazards were chosen to be addressed in this update. The other hazards were determined not to be impactful enough to address currently, and the full assessment can be found in Section 4, Table 7. So what hazards were addressed in this plan? We chose floods and fluvial erosion, winter storms, high wind events, extreme cold, infectious disease outbreak, invasive species, extreme heat, and hazardous material spill. The ones that were chosen not to be addressed in this plan were hail, drought, wildfire, earthquake, landslide, and debris flow. Phase 3. The first task was review community capabilities. As a team, we reviewed the tools and resources that Manchester has available to implement hazard mitigation actions. These are all listed in Section 5. And the next task, Task 6, was to develop the mitigation strategy. Mitigation goals were what we first focused on, and the 2016 goals were reviewed by the planning team, and the team chose not to make any changes at this time. Those are included in the printout provided to you and in Section 6 of the plan. We then reviewed all 54 of the actions from the 2016 plan and rolled some over, updated others, and after some reevaluation, removed some as they may not have been completed or are not within the scope or the capacity of the town currently. The last plan was kind of like very broad goals, some of them we looked at and we're like, the town isn't even capable of doing that. So we kind of took them out, removed them, and you can see in Appendix 1 in the back, you'll see all of the 2016 actions, and you'll see like removed or ongoing or carried over. And then if they were removed, there's an explanation for why we chose to remove them. For those actions that were kept in the plan or new ones that we added, we then gave each a priority ranking and developed the final action plan as seen in Table 25. This plan now includes 36 actions that the town can undertake to support mitigation actions. And the ones that are considered as high priority may be considered as possible actions the town may want to address sooner than those listed as low priority. Ooh. We keep moving around. I keep hitting my screen. Apologies. Phase 4. The next steps are to review, adopt, and then implement the plan. As of Monday, so yesterday, the plan is currently available for public comment, and this can be found on BCRC's website on Manchester's page on the website. And so it's going to look like this. There we go. So if you go to BCRC's main page, you can choose whatever town you want out of our region. If you click on Manchester, down at the bottom under projects, it now says Town of Manchester Hazard Mitigation Plan 2025 Update Draft. Katie has linked to it. Thank you. Today from the town's website under news and announcements, it'll take you right there as well. We emailed it out to surrounding towns, agencies that work with vulnerable individuals, and other community groups for feedback. Comments can be sent to my attention at bzinc@bcrcvt.org. The public comment period will remain open until April 11th. Once it closes, I will then take any feedback to the planning team for review and incorporate it into the final draft and then submit it to Vermont Emergency Management for review. That will be submitted to them by April 18th. VEM will then evaluate and let us know if there are any updates that should be made. Once VEM determines that we have met all of the FEMA requirements, we will then be sent the approval pending adoption notice. The select board can then adopt the plan, and the final plan will then go to FEMA for official approval from them. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. It's a lot of back and forth. And then the plan should be reviewed annually in December, and actions can be updated as needed, removed if completed or no longer relevant, or added to if necessary to continue to work towards building a safe and resilient Manchester. Are there any questions? I know it's a long plan. The mitigation actions are really kind of like the core of that plan. Those are actions that the plan could, that the town can aspire to do. We made sure to add on the Bournebrook project as a mitigation action. That shows when it comes to FEMA funding, the hazard mitigation plan has to be in place in order to get the hazard mitigation funding that we're hoping to get for that project. And then having that action in the plan shows that we have support to do that project from the community. So that's why we're pushing so hard to get, this usually takes 18 months plus to get a plan done, but the planning team has worked really hard and come together numerous times in order to get this done so that we can, the town can be eligible for those HMGP funds.
Yeah, Dara's done a great job keeping us on task. With so many people involved and so many meetings, we tend to drift off, but she's been cracking that whip and she's done a great amount of work behind the scenes. When we give her our input, she's added it and then come right back to us right away. So the ball is never in her court for very long.
Katie was helping me track down people just to get some answers back and things like that. So it really was a group effort. The feedback that came back from the team members has been excellent. I think that, you know, the plan is ready to go to VEM once it gets through public comment. And, you know, I'm excited to see if the public has any feedback for us to address and then we can get it off to VEM. Thank you. Any other questions? If you do have questions, if you review the plan and you have questions about anything, use my email address, which is here. Feel free. Oops. I'm terrible at this. I'm the worst.
You're done.
I'm done. I just want to leave that up there for a second longer. And feel free to reach out with any questions, comments, anything like that. I'll bring it back to the team for discussion prior to the plan being finalized. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
If
They're gonna kick me out. Boy. Showing my age.
Agenda item 8 is, we have 2 vending license applications and an outside dining application. Scott, you wanna? lead?
Yeah, let's take them one by one. So Last Tacos is a class 2 renewal. It would be $1,200. It's the same location. He's basically on a month with the landlord, which is us, for this last 2 weeks of this month. We hopefully will have a closing April 1st or thereabouts. And he's already talked to the proposed new owner, who will probably keep him there, as he feels it attracts business to the location.
make a motion to approve Los Tacos Class 2 vending license.
A second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
5-0. Next.
So this is unique.
Bird one.
Yes, Anita and I have been working hard on this one, especially Anita, but she's dealt with Chenille. So this is an actual mobile vendor who will be selling liquor with class 1 or class 3 or both liquor license. She's not applying for that at the moment. She's just applying for the vending license. I assume if we give her the vending license, she will come back with the liquor license application in the future. Her plan is, I mean, I think you have it, brief outline that she gave, but according to the state, it needs to be housed at the same location. And so she's going to have to get,
There's an attached.
oh, right. So she's going to have to come back for the first and or third class liquor license, but she would also need a liquor license catering license from the state. So all of these things are going to have to fall into place for her to have this work out for her. But right now, she's just looking for the initial vending license. She's looking for a seasonal one, which is $500, and just runs from May 1st to October 31st. So the idea being you're having a private party, she would come to your place, she would get the permit for that day also. Come to your place, either serve alcohol or I guess alcohol. I don't think she serves food, but she does need a health permit, which she would get also. She already has that, I believe.
Oh, so this is like
So
the
it's-
renovated or converted horse trailer.
Kind of an ice cream truck for liquor. No, no, it's not. like that.
They're cool. Yeah, and they inside all lit and outside lights, and then they open up on the side and weddings, big at weddings.
It's new to us, but it's not new to the state. They've had several of these before and they're walking us through the process. And thanks to Anita, she's been tracking down a lot of the information.
So we've had traveling vendors before, but not going way back. And I don't know, I mean, most of the vendors that we deal with now are in a specific location.
Right.
But we have, of course, caterers that go to events and cater at events, but they're usually tied to an existing bricks and mortar restaurant or something like that. This is different.
It's unique.
I don't hate it, but
Well, so just step one, let's move,
This is
make a
step
motion
one,
to
right.
approve the
Yeah.
vending application as in the packet.
that's
Seasonal class one.
Is in plus one.
are you doing that?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve a seasonal class one. vending.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye, that's 5-0.
Okay, I anticipate seeing that one come back if she moves forward with it. I believe she will.
That's
And the final one is the Thai Basil, use of town-owned sidewalk for outdoor dining. This has happened over the past few years and it's the same location, same time frame, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Running through November 15th. And that's $115 fee. And I don't know where that came from, but I can't find it. Apparently that's what she's been paying.
Seems like an odd.
Seems like we should look at that.
I
one too.
remember seeing that on the fee schedule.
There must be some kind of
I
person.
don't know where it came from.
7 tables.
Scott, that's actually the first class liquor license payment.
What was it?
So she's not paying for, at all for this?
I don't think we had charged her last year.
Do we
No
charge,
fee to use the
do we
site.
charge anybody for their outside sidewalk seating?
No,
I don't think so.
no, it's just subject to approval because we own the property. Hmm.
I mean, we're like increasing the size of their dining room by 7 tables half the year.
Right.
For the state regs, they have X amount of seats. And in theory, if they put them outside, they're supposed to reduce the inside. Maybe they're not at capacity. That's usually not our purview to check, see the seats available. It's the health department.
Did we, I don't know, because this predates my tenure on the board, but did we do this before the pandemic?
Which one, this?
At the.
The Thai basil outdoor seating.
I don't think we did.
Oh, you mean approve it?
No, I
No,
don't
did
think we
we
had
have,
applicants
did we,
for
did we
outdoor
have,
seating
uh,
on the sidewalk.
sidewalk seating? I think we did.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think maybe they were there. They might have been the first and only.
Who else would have been there? Christos?
Christos came, I think.
After.
Around COVID or during. at some point.
But I think Thai Basil might have too.
Seems like everything's built for that, for them, like they built that.
It's been there a while.
Yeah, and there's
Jeez.
bollards there and everything
Right.
else. I mean, that,
The ballers were added for that.
I'm gonna say that was pre-COVID. I believe.
Sense.
I guess I'm also just thinking about why don't we charge for this? If it's an incremental expense to the town,
It's certainly up to you guys. You're the,
This is an expense?
well, if we're adding, like, haven't we been,
They, I
Make-
think, pay for the ballers.
oh,
I don't know.
Yeah, much like Christo's
Yeah.
paid for a very
Oh,
expensive ramp.
yeah.
And it's tougher for us to deny it.
Well, I mean, they're still using the town sidewalk.
I mean, in this, yeah.
It works from a functional perspective better at Ty Basil than it does in some of the other areas.
Mhm.
Right, but back to Heidi's point, I think, there should be some fee for that. I mean, we have to process the paperwork, that
Yeah,
takes some
you
cost.
can look at that. I mean, they've submitted an application under the current rules as they exist. We'll have to look at it for future. For some of the businesses in town, this was offered as a way for them to continue conducting business during COVID. And some of those have a fairly significant impact on pedestrian flow and
Mhm.
that kind of thing.
We'll have Christos on our next select board meeting, so.
I think we should definitely look at this going forward. I think it's, again, it kind of goes back to some of the things that we did. The accommodations that we made with outdoor vendors that, were temporary, but then now they've extended into permanent. And obviously, we all agree that outdoor seating is great. It creates a vibrant downtown. It's a really nice, good feeling, but we should also think about how does it impact other businesses that don't have outdoor seating and, just the processing of these applications, there should be some fee associated with it. It's.
Wasn't, actually, I was thinking about, there's also Umami, right? That has outdoor seating.
Yeah, but that's their own property.
Oh, that's
There's a
right,
lot,
sorry.
there's a lot of restaurants in town that
Right.
have outdoor seating, but
This is on the town
You're right.
sidewalk.
Yeah.
this is on the sidewalk, which was a relatively new idea.
Right. Which was I believe it was an accommodation. I don't recall exactly when they started, but I don't remember it being that crowded on the outside of
I,
that area.
I think the Thai Basil one was,
7 tables? I don't.
it may not have been that large.
And again, I'm
But they
supportive
asked-
of it. I think it's
I mean,
great.
Are they suggesting an increase in tables? I don't think so.
No,
No, same as last
The
year.
other thing was, did we discuss having the DRB review all outdoor seatings, including the town-owned properties?
No, they were gonna review the vendor
Mm.
application, the vendor license, yes.
Oh, well, yeah, okay. Seem to recall something about outdoor seating too, but anyway, I don't think we should make any change in this instance at this juncture. And I'm gonna make a motion to approve this.
second it.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? Appears to be unanimous. Done.
Flag that for follow-up.
Yeah.
Yeah, there should be.
Okay, we have a highway mileage certificate, agency of transportation.
We do this annually, and usually there's no change, but this year we do have a change. We've added 2 roads, Green Mountain Road and Valley Pass Road. And it's been a little bit more difficult than I thought. Apparently, the state was very cautious about adding roads because they do pay for the mileage. So this is the last step. I've already sent them all the documentation that we had to. And so all I do is need you guys to approve the mileage and sign it in the very small spots that they have down the bottom.
So no motion, just signatures.
That's, that's all it says. Well, actually, we should have a motion. We should have a motion.
And that gets officially into the minutes.
Yeah.
The form, mine just has highlighted added mileage with no mileage underneath in any of the classes. Is there a number associated with that?
We've already sent that up, Greg. It's a half a mile,
0.55.
0.5, yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the mileage calculation for this year.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And that's unanimous.
See down the bottom, there's a spot there.
Highway mileage certificate, but
Yeah, 0.5.
We're going to act as sewer commissioners. Do I have to actually convene a sewer commission?
I've seen it go both ways. I would recommend entering into a school commission meeting.
Okay, so my recommendation on agenda item 10 is to convene as the Board of Sewer Commissioners. And can I just declare that?
What's that?
Can I just declare that, or does it?
Yeah.
do we have to suspend our meeting first?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
So acting as the Board of Sewer Commissioners, we have two items. Scott,
Right. So the first item is the annual review of wastewater rates. The water commissioners have already voted to increase the rate 3%. And usually water and sewer follow along. But I pulled, you see on the table in front of you, we just got this from the auditors. It's not an official printout of the audit, but this is a draft of the audit. And so this most likely won't be any changes to this. So you'll see in the enterprise funds, the sewer fund, it shows the operating for last year, the operating expenses and the revenue with a net position change of $215,048. So that shows a fairly decent year. And also you'll see I got the capital balance right now from Mike earlier this morning, and that's at $1,315,000.
$1,315,000.
Yes, and change, yeah. And so on the second page that I left you, it says a statement of net position. You'll see the unrestricted funds highlighted down the bottom. That's $1,271,000. So, I mean, obviously it's increased since then to the $1,315,000. And then finally, you'll see the fee schedule that we have in place right now on the last, if it's the last page or another page that's in front of you. I don't know if we stapled them all together or not.
they're it all together.
Okay. So the rate's 0.004606. A 3% increase would move it to 0.004744. And this is something you had wanted to do annually, just to keep current and make sure we don't fall behind. We do use the capital account.
I know I've said it before, but prior to doing this as an annual event, we might go 10 years without changing rates. And then in order to keep up with the costs, we have to bump it 30%. It's kinder and easier to do it this way, to try to just follow what our expenses are and bump it up every year accordingly. The water and sewer funds are separate enterprise funds. They're operated as separate entities from the general fund, and they are fully sustained by the users of those services.
Do you need a motion to approve the
Amend the rates.
to amend?
Amend the rates, yeah.
Wouldn't go into effect until July 1st.
After the year ends, right?
Yeah, the motion simply to amend the rates as proposed.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman, to amend the rates as proposed to from 0.004606 to 0.004744.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That's 5-0.
And just the second piece for the water sewer commissioners, we had to order a new aeration system for the wastewater treatment aeration system. And we had to get in the pipeline sooner rather than later in order to get this done this year. So we've ordered it, and what'll happen is they'll ship all this material up to us, and then they'll send a staff member up to educate our crew, and our crew will put this stuff together. Then that person will come back up again for install and just and guide us as we do the install on this. This is something that Eric has been pushing for a couple of years since God came along. And I think this is a good opportunity to get it done.
Will this come out of our investment portfolio?
Okay, yes, yeah.
What was that?
Oh, yeah.
1.2 million.
Yeah.
Just one note about this. We have a program initiated by Anita's father to extend the maintenance period on the aeration systems in the lagoons. And basically, it's because we introduced bullhead into the lagoons, which are bottom feeders, and keep it clear. And we get a lot more mileage out of the maintenance on these aeration systems by having the bullheads in there. It was a great plan.
Wouldn't want to eat them, but.
Yeah.
You don't want to eat bullheads anyways.
So I don't need any action on that. I just wanted to keep you informed of that.
Okay, I think that's it for the sewer commissioners, and we'll get back to our regular select board agenda.
Close the meeting, the sewer meeting.
Yeah. Whatever mechanism we use to do that. Agenda item 11 is to receive the proposed 2025 town plan and set dates for public hearings. I believe everyone's in the town plan as proposed. Do you have suggestions as to when the hearings should be?
Well, I mean, we need 30 days now, and our next meeting is April 1st, so we can't. And then it goes April 15th, so we're not gonna make that either. And we're on such a tight schedule. What we can do is we can hold a special meeting, let's say just after the 30 days, all right? And then have the second meeting at our regular meeting, second meeting that month.
Yeah.
So either way, we're gonna have to do a special
We
meeting.
have to have this done by May.
Yeah, it's the first week of May is what we're shooting for, the first meeting.
Very far away.
No.
No, it's not.
So that would put if we did it after the 30 days, that would put us, if we did it on a Tuesday, that would put us on the 22nd of April. And then we would have a meeting the following week on the 29th.
Is that a regular scheduled meeting, the
So if we do
29th?
the 15th, because that's 3 in 1 month.
Right. What's the following one? Does like 6th or
No, it would be the,
5th
well,
of May?
I mean, if it's every 2 weeks, it was,
It's typically not every 2 weeks, it's 2 a month.
okay, then the 6th would be the next.
Which is not bad because we hold that second meeting at the beginning of the agenda. And then we can approve it at the end of the agenda,
Right.
assuming you don't make substantial changes.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what the timeline Kelly had set out for us for.
Okay. So we're looking at the
22nd?
22nd.
For a special meeting.
For a special meeting. Do you want to have it at a different time?
Can you have it no, that wouldn't work.
Or you could have it the 29th.
The
29th, what day of the week is that?
That's a
That's
Tuesday.
Tuesday also.
Oh, I see.
How much time has to be in between the first and second meeting?
You could have it the next day. But we
Let's do that.
don't have to rewarn another 30 days.
Second makes sense.
All right with everybody?
Yeah.
So we'll get the warning out tomorrow, the next day. And have it on the 22nd and then May 6th.
Mhm.
Okay.
Does that have to be at 7 or can we start it
You can do it anytime you want.
at 5 or something? I don't know what works for everything.
On the 22nd.
Yeah.
5 is tough for me.
No,
especially
5 would-
now the
yeah.
days are getting longer.
6.
Killing me here.
7's fine. 7's fine.
All right.
Days are getting long.
7 at 4:22. The other thing we can do on the 6th, is we could hold this at like 6:30.
Yes.
And if we, if we had to run it into our meeting, we could do that before we start the meeting. I mean, it's the second meeting, you're not gonna usually get new information at that meeting.
Okay.
We could do that.
We're
Okay,
saying the,
on the sixth,
okay, so the 22nd,
6:30.
we're gonna do it normal time of 7 PM.
yes.
And then the 6th at
I don't
6:30.
say this. I don't see it taking a long time. I mean, the information's out there. Did the planning commission get a lot of input at their hearings on this?
No, I think it was among themselves to
Yeah,
have a
that's-
discussion.
There's like
At the
2 or 3
public
people.
Meeting, right?
And this was also to meet the deadline, what they've done extensive work, but they plan on, once they meet the deadline, to go back into the process.
Yeah, it's not, this is a working document. This
Yeah.
is like meeting a deadline for a specific
Right.
reason, and then they're gonna actually do
And
something.
then they're gonna be doing more
Yeah.
after we meet that deadline.
So it was the.
But a lot's been
22nd,
done.
And then
Yeah,
what?
I mean, it's, yeah.
May 6th
Okay.
at 6:30. So we need a motion to accept the town plan and set the dates for hearing, the 2 hearings, correct?
We're receiving it,
Yeah.
so we're not approving it.
Yeah, I didn't say approve, I said accept it. I thought was the term.
That's, you can use that word, sure.
Except
So-
interchangeable with receipt. Yeah.
Yep. I move to accept the proposed 2025 town plan as presented from the planning commission and set the initial hearing, public hearing for April 22nd at 7 PM. And the second hearing for May 6th at 6:30.
I'll second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous and it's approved. And the dates are set. Item 12, Scott, is the town manager updates.
Just a few things, the pickleball and tennis court. I might have already said this, but we received 2 bids and now we're working with the low bid contractor to try to find ways to refine and reduce costs. And the bids were a little bit higher than we had hoped, but now we're working with the contractor to bring that into a more realistic plan, and so it's still moving forward. The payment in lieu parking update. So last time we met, Ivan, you wanted to communicate to the planning commission.
I had a meeting with Peter and Elias. And Peter and I discussed what I felt was the board's thoughts, but I gave him my thoughts and I said, you have to understand this is just coming from me, but I believe the board is concurs with this. And what we were trying to do is just give the planning commission the information so that they could put it together in a way that could be accepted at this level rather than spinning their wheels. So Peter put some language together and he sent it to me. I changed it a little bit, added some things. And basically it's in a significant way is going back to the language that existed back in 2013 in the previous zoning ordinance. What we didn't address was the monetary side of it, which was actually in the ordinance back then.
You didn't?
Have they added that?
He has. This,
Okay,
there's a
we discussed that and
the version in front of, on the table in front of you.
so we did this, we had talked about it and that's fine.
He's got
He
it.
said, would it be all right to insert the language from back then? I mean, that's,
It says not less than 15,000 per parking space.
I said, that's fine. And I wanted the language, the fee will ultimately be set by the select board. So that was added before the last time that I was involved with the discussion. But you've seen it.
So what he's looking,
And pretty much everything that's underlined, the red that's not underlined was Peter. Everything that's underlined was me, that I added in.
so at this point, the planning commission is looking for a consensus among the board here, so they don't have to go back and forth again. And so,
Actually, I'm glad that he added that down. Because we didn't get that far.
Way better than it was.
And Quite honestly, if we've created deficit parking areas by using this mechanism, and the burden is on us to provide the parking because they can't do it. And that's a significant expense to the town. It's interesting. I was looking at the existing properties up around the area near where the most latest proposal happened and was approved. And it's on the corner of Mountain View Terrace is a parcel that's not being utilized. It has significant environmental issues. It's an old filling station. It was the Lehigh station before that. It was, I believe, a Gulf station. Nick, I see no reason why that couldn't be a public parking area that would help mitigate some of the problems up in that end of town, but I don't know if it's for sale or what the value would be on it, but it's going to require looking into those kind of things and saying, where can the town participate to try to get some parking put in?
Did we take our fund that had the previous contributions to it from pay for parking? How much does that, I know that we,
It's like 37,000
Spent a lot.
now.
Yeah.
We drew it down
yeah,
for the Walgreens
Right.
parking lot, but then we've added to it with this,
Yeah.
the Greek restaurant, Greek pizza restaurant.
We're starting to build up.
So just a question though, I know obviously the planning commission is usually the source of this information. If this is the language that we as a board generally approve, couldn't we in fact do the same and just approve it?
You could.
Can. The select board can initiate a zoning amendment and approve it unilaterally, and there's a mechanism in statute to do that. It's not the typical approach.
Okay.
And, I would like the planning commission to have their crack at this and say, well, yeah, this is all right, but we'd rather have it written this way. That's fine. I was just trying to get something down that you could look at as a template for moving it forward that kind of reflected what my thoughts were, and I think the thoughts in general of the board were. And
can we bring that floor up on the 15? Isn't, it's 12 years old, that fee in there, or do you just want some more room in there?
well, it says a minimum,
Yeah.
That's a fee that we set. And I went back and forth as to whether that actual fee should be in the zoning ordinance in that section or in an addendum somewhere that could be more easily addressed, because these things tend to get overlooked.
Like the fee schedule?
A fee,
Yeah.
a fee schedule.
But you have this as a floor, which is fine.
Yeah.
That way we can increase it due to inflation or whatever going forward.
But it hasn't been increased for 12 years. That's from 12 years ago. It doesn't
But
reflect.
actually, in practical application, it decreased by a significant.
I mean,
Substantially.
Yeah.
Somebody
I don't remember how that happened.
negotiated.
somebody referenced a number that wasn't the right number. And
Well, this got taken out of the ordinance when the whole thing got reconfigured. All this disappeared. The mechanism to pay for parking was still there, but all the rest. And so it took a little bit of research to go back and find what was there originally. And because it was such a large brand new document that totally with all new indexing and language, there was nothing, you couldn't look at the two documents side by side and find the place where this happened and that happened. It was really confusing time. And I think the planning commission is going to be looking at it and saying, because now the DRB has been working with it and saying, hey, what happened? We can't find this or we can't find that. And it's the chairs of the various boards are meeting from time to time to discuss these kind of issues. So we're not just all sitting in silos dealing with these kind of things. I think it's a wonderful idea. And there's a lot more communication between the DRB and the planning commission at this point.
Right.
Because the DRB is using the document. And so
Well,
I think we're going to get to a really good place with this.
I think one of the problems was that by the time it got to us to approve the parking piece of it, everything else was already.
We were
in motion.
really far into this
So
process.
if we had said no, or we had said, it's gonna be 25,000 per spot. I don't know that the whole project would have penciled out
Yeah.
the way that they
Yeah,
wanted
I'm
it
sure it
to.
would. Yeah, we got put in a tough spot and we were, I'm gonna say that we may not have been as prepared as we could have been to deal with it. And the DRB, Tim and I have had some discussions on it and he's saying, well, where should this go first? You know, should it go to the select board to see if you guys are, you know, where you stand on it before we build it into the, or approve of the site plan? I think before it gets DRB approval, this piece needs to be accomplished. They can't get their approval from DRB and then come here
Look,
and give us any
Yeah.
discretion.
right, because they've already spent all the money to do site plan and
Yep.
do all this other stuff. So then they're assuming that we're gonna approve it, which I feel like we really did the wrong, I mean, that was not, I didn't love that.
You really didn't have much wiggle room with that.
Yeah. And hence the
This
moratorium
will-
and, an attempt to get it straightened so that we can utilize it should the situation arise.
Right.
Okay, so I'll send this back to.
I mean, I
Okay.
know that it passes my muster because I'm the one that worked with them, but we kind of wanted to see how the board felt about it.
I guess my only question, which you probably have discussed before, is does it prevent other people from being able to have their projects pencil out?
Well,
I understand what
I
the
mean,
money.
I mean,
is
Bill
used
understands
for.
this because he's been
Right.
part of it. And the language is pretty clear. We've got buildings in town, historic buildings mostly that were built prior to the advent of the automobile and the need for parking and in order for those buildings to be utilized in a new use, there has to be a provision for not having the parking necessary. It waive the parking requirement, but it really doesn't address the issue of where you're gonna put the cars. And this was a creative way of allowing, if they had the land on site, they would have to pay to put in a parking area.
Yeah,
So we're just transferring that from the applicant to the town, but the fee in some way has to reflect what that cost would be for the town. In the instance where it was used in the center of town, in the old Factory Point example, the town owned a municipal parking lot that wasn't allocated to other use, but it was going to require some upgrade, and that worked well. I think it was a good collaboration, and worked exactly as it should. There are very few places in town where the town owns a municipal parking lot that would accommodate this. So I think the number originally was 15,000. That was a better guess at what it might cost per space to build something. That was based on engineering estimates. We asked our engineer if we were going to build a parking lot, what would it cost us per space? And that was where that number came from.
Is that the number that was originally in there?
That
That
number of
15, yeah.
15,000 was in the, was
Okay,
in the
so I
ordinance.
took that number and used the inflation ratio and got it up to about 23, I think it was.
Yeah, that was the
Probably
number
right.
When we were
that
talking.
was in the ordinance in 2013.
Okay,
25.
right.
So it was-
so this is a floor, you can go above that.
Yeah,
Okay.
but anyways, as long as
Well, haven't we
people,
also moved the zone so that we may not be in this situation
Well-
again based on?
Well, we haven't completed that yet.
I
We
think
just got the moratorium in place. at the
Yeah.
moment.
so
Until this is done,
it's so
No,
much.
no, I know we haven't moved the zone. I'm saying
Okay.
within this change,
correct.
we should be mitigating the problem of what we ran into
Mhm.
in the previous situation.
Yeah. I believe so. No. Can you move to the, so
Podium.
people can hear you on Zoom, can you move to the podium? Yeah.
And state your name.
State your name, please, for the record.
Bill Grunzick, business owner in the center of town. Maybe a few other hats that I don't want to describe, but it kind of gets, I think this discussion gets down to a basic philosophy is in a downtown business district or any business district, who should be responsible for providing for the necessary parking for the development? And should it be just the developer, or should the town play a role in that? And I guess that my question is, what does the board feel about that question?
I think there's a divergence of opinion on the board as to exactly how that should be addressed. And I know there's at least one member on the board that feels that the parking requirements should be either eliminated or simplified dramatically. I think, I mean, most urban areas don't have parking, and it's incumbent upon the city to come up with ways for providing that. In a smaller rural town where you have an active downtown that doesn't benefit to a large degree the outer regions of the community, to ask those people through their taxes to benefit the downtown by providing parking for them, it could make their lives very difficult. And I think one of the responsibilities that's incumbent upon somebody that's proposing to do a business is to come up with a plan for how they're going to address the needs that business puts on the community. So I, for one, it may not be perfect, but I think at this point, given what I've seen, would stick by what our approach now. Whether the numbers are correct, I don't know. But the fact that the business has to, in their plan, provide for the parking, which may include a parking deficit.
Which is essentially the way we have been operating since I've been in the community.
But there are other larger urban areas where you want to put a business that you're not responsible for any parking. It falls upon the city. We're not in a position to put in multi-level parking garages.
And then when that happens, there's a fee that you pay for parking.
Exactly.
So there's a way to earn that back. But that's not the approach we have taken.
Used to have meters in town.
And we found that was,
Charging for parking in the lot behind, there's
Equinox Village.
yeah, there's like a little thing
Green
that
Mountain
you're supposed to.
Yeah.
Green Mountain Shop, that's now.
well,
I don't know, patrolling it or.
I heard that recently. I haven't checked it out and I don't know what the policing of it is. But that changes
Town wouldn't police it because it's not.
It's
all planning documents in the past have said, as long as you provide your share of parking, it assumes that your neighbor's going to provide the share of parking too. And we even promoted interconnectability between lots to take traffic off the roads, and people could, if I'm stopping at your store, but I could park next door and walk. But same, the person up there could park at their store and come to your store by walking. So I hate to see us change that concept at this point in time, at least with a lot more thought. And payment in lieu of parking, particularly if you have developable land on your property and you're using that. It's one thing when you use an existing footprint, but want to say, I guess there's been some conversation, allow expansion on a lot of building footprint and parking be damned. They're parking over my parking lot. I won't be happy about that.
That's what we basically did in the last one that came before us, was we allowed a complete demolition of what was there, and then a much larger footprint of use without the required parking. And that's not what I felt this piece of the ordinance was meant to address. It was meant to address existing buildings that on the lot just did not have the space for.
Correct.
Without any expansion. So anyways, that's where we are right now. The larger parking issue, I mean, that's a planning commission discussion issue as far as where we want to head, but I know I'm pretty.
Okay, I'll just ask you next.
Seen enough friction between restaurants and auto parts stores, banks and other businesses where the bank parking lot is full and their patrons have nowhere to go because everybody else is using their lot. We've put a huge emphasis on having your own parking, And people do have their own parking, but then it's being chewed up by other uses in the area. At restaurants that are side by side, same sort of thing. We have a lot of that going on in town and we hear a lot about it. So to me, parking is an integral piece of your application for a commercial use, and the burden is on you to provide that parking. It may be with our cooperation through this, but that has to be provided for that specific use.
I'm glad to hear that. Thank you. Now, the fee. Well, I hope others will accept that. The other thing, the question is about the fee and what's appropriate. I think the true cost of starting from scratch, you can get different numbers. I have some good costs of what it's done, and I know what we paid for in the town parking lot to rebuild it, but and part of that came from other funds, and part, fortunately, was the rebuild was, I guess, instigated or helped along substantially by the pot that had been built up by fee for parking. I will probably readily admit that the fees that I paid could have been a little bit larger to meet the costs of the day.
Not at the time,
But I paid what was in the bylaw at the time. And we find to help out
no, I,
the ways.
I think we're all on the same page on
Yeah.
trying to make it work. And you have to understand that the renovations that were done to that parking lot didn't include the purchase of the property.
Mhm.
When you put that into the mix, where
Yeah, costs can,
they
yeah.
skyrocket. So, the town has condemnation authority, but I don't think that would go over real big.
There's a few people I'd like to use it on.
Anyways,
Okay, I'm just, well, came in a little bit late, but again, equity for everybody's investment is what's important. So,
perfect.
thank you.
Thank you.
And my final item is the county courthouse group is looking for 2 select board representatives. You know, they came to us recently and forming this village, town, community group. And they want to come up with some, well, they already have ideas and they want to see how they can make it happen in the courthouse. And so, you know, you had requested that we have 2 spaces on whatever committee is formed. And so now they're looking for who those 2 faces are as they go forward.
I'd be willing to serve as one.
How frequently do they meet?
Gordon said that they're hopeful to meet once a month until they get this thing rolling.
I could do that, Jim. I'll do it with Greg. 6 months,
Yeah.
Right.
if you're good.
Yeah, no, I'm
Let's see. what
looking
it
at the
is.
schedule in my head, I'm going,
I'm perfectly happy
Okay.
with you two
Yeah.
taking on that role.
Great.
Okay, that's all I have tonight.
Okay, then we'll get into other business. I had one item under other business. I recently, today, became aware of a proposal to hold a protest on the roundabout. And we've discouraged that kind of activity on the roundabout in the past. This is being advertised as child friendly, which makes it even scarier to me. We all navigate those roundabouts pretty well, but we have people that come to town that they're going through the first time, and it requires quite a bit of concentration, and you need to be able to see the signs and understand what you're doing, especially if you're not familiar with the roundabouts. We do not allow people to put signs or banners around the roundabouts, and if they do, they're taken down immediately, because it's distracting and people aren't paying attention to what they're going. We have had peaceful demonstrations on the roundabout before, and the police have asked them to move on because of the obvious safety issues. I just wanted, if anybody's watching, to have you think carefully about this. I don't know if there's anything in the ordinances that would prohibit it, but I think it's a very dangerous, potentially dangerous, from the perspective of traffic flow, especially if we're going to put kids roundabout. I mean, when it said it was going to be a child-friendly protest, it made me think that there might be children there, which is adding an element of danger.
But no,
Sorry.
but no one's in the center.
Well, Mr. Chairman, we've also talked about the fact that people in the center island, that was something that
Yeah,
I think was discouraged heavily. And then on certain occasions, like when the fire department does a parade for BBA, for example, can be huge amounts on the outskirts.
yeah.
And by and
But
large,
there's a police presence.
by and large, and I think maybe if you're planning to do a protest, that they should, one, be subject to a permit and be subject to
Well,
a
I mean, that may be
detailed-
true, but I don't think we have anything in our ordinance now that would suggest that. So I'm just,
Right.
I want to go on the record as saying, please, use it, as much, thought towards safety as possible. And, let's hope that there's not a fender bender or someone hit by a car. And for future, we might want to have something that addresses that.
I wonder if we put up, for this particular thing, put up some,
My understanding is it's going to be on the 22nd, this coming Saturday, noon to 1. So I'm advertising right now for anybody that wasn't going to attend. Now they can. But it worries me. I'm nervous.
maybe in this case, we can have a detail there for this particular one and then incorporate it in to the to our ordinance on certain uses. I've seen huge crowds there for BBA fire truck parades. And it's worked out well and people have gathered well, ahead of time. Luckily staying out of the middle, but they're on.
But it's
Yeah.
that's
Well, they're not waving, well, some of them were
that's a-
waving signs saying go
Yeah.
BBA,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
I mean, it's just as distracting but I think that we should, make it more official as to the use of the roundabout and nobody can be in the center island.
Yeah, I mean, I am a huge supporter of peaceful demonstration. So is our Constitution. I also understand that people want to be visible when they're doing that, and there's no more visible spot in town. So, I can see both sides of the issue. Let's keep safety in mind.
I think you're right, and I think a permit / detail requirement should be
That may be-
instigated.
Yeah. You also have to understand that demonstrations can form very quickly as a grassroots kind of thing. This one just happened to be advertised, so I began to.
Probably because they thought there was a, precedent.
It could be.
People have been doing it.
It could be.
Yeah.
We have asked people to leave. There was one where people were stopping cars and there was confrontation. That was probably instigated from one of the passing automobiles, more so than the people that were demonstrating, and then it became ugly. And so. Anyways, Bill.
I'd like to give you a quick update on the Riverwalk Bridge project. If you're interested, if not, right there.
Then under public comments, but I am interested in hearing what you have to say. I'll bring this up under other business from the board's angle. I wonder what's going on with the Riverwalk Bridge. Now you're responding to my question. Go ahead.
Okay, we have been more or less proceeding as planned, except for one hiccup, and that's the bridge itself. Which is a major hiccup. Our bridge supplier contact, the bridge was coming out of Virginia. And at the time we placed of our order, they got, and before we placed, they told us, yeah, we could have the bridge probably late April, early May. And when we actually placed the order, we said, well, we have such a rash of orders, we're going to push it back to late July, early August. Didn't like that. And so we went back and son Stephen, who's working on it, went back and forth with him and came up with an alternate plan to move the bridge fabrication to another facility in Minnesota, which had a little more capacity and room. And now we have the delivery date moved up to the first week of June. It postpones what was our original planned, let's say, ribbon cutting and celebration from Memorial Day weekend to now it looks like July 4th weekend and or the weekend before. Going to let the Riverwalk Committee work with the town on that and figure which is best. I tend to leave the weekend before versus July 4th itself myself, but that's not my decision. And we will have 3 to 4 weeks to clean up the park and get it ready for summer use. So if we stick to that schedule, I think we'll good to have everything restored and in order.
Do the concerts on the green start?
Yeah, that was my concern. I think it's the last week of June.
Yeah.
June.
Yeah.
So two, if this goes according to schedule, that will affect 2 of the concerts on the green right now.
And we move them
We're gonna have to,
Yep.
or we
to
can,
the rec park?
unless we squeeze them on half of the green.
I think we'll be able to, we'll work hard to try to accommodate that, at least the second one, okay?
I'm just concerned if it extends a little further, past July 4th.
Can't guarantee it, but I'm 90% sure there, and we're definitely holding their feet to the fire on that. They've got a bit of money from us, and so, but sometimes things are out of our control, but that's where we are right today.
How much do you really want to rush a bridge too? You want them to do it right, you know?
Well,
Yeah.
that's the key thing. We need the whole park to erect it. We have a 220,000 pound crane coming in with an additional 110,000 pounds of counterweights coming in order to, the bridge is going to be coming in 2 sections of 55 feet, assembled together on the lawn there, and then picked up in one piece, swung over the pavilion and set in place. You could see
Over the Ivan.
we're the pad.
That day.
It doesn't actually, the bridge itself only weighs about 25 tons. But because of the reach and everything, we need a huge crane with a long beam and so on. So it'll be worth a few shows and watching. So that's where we are. We've got, we found a very competent mason contractor. We're going to face the bridge with marble because of the old marble mill. That's all lined up. Then we're working on the north abutment right now. If you stand there and look across the river, we have many, let's say, sidewalk superintendents asking me what the hell is going on over there. But we ran into a few, let's say, obstacles in that when we did the bank building back there and we changed the power lines from overhead to underground. Of course, they're right in the middle of the abutment where the planned abutment is. So we had to kind of jockey him aside along with a high power electric line and conduit. But we got that all worked out, and their excavation for that foundation should be complete tomorrow. Contractor is moving in tomorrow to finish that foundation. When that comes out of the ground, it's waiting for the bridge.
Nice.
Great.
Great.
Yeah, thanks for the update.
Very good.
I have one item.
Yep.
Sorry. I just wanted a clarification. On Friday, there was there was the Irish flag was lifted here. And I just wanted a clarification on how the policy relates to that flag and how it,
The policy does relate to that flag. I mean, it very clearly says United States flag, state of Vermont flag, on town property. And until that's replaced with some kind of flag policy, that's.
well, we adopted a flag policy, which stated that they could get a permission with a proclamation, right? So that's the piece that,
That was missing. They do not come to the select board for approval, which is what they should have done.
okay,
Despite the proclamation. So you're saying,
Well, proclamation was years ago, so.
When
We-
we didn't have a flag policy.
correct.
Right, we do now, and according to what I understand, they weren't aware of the flag policy. So I told them about it on Monday and we took the flag down.
I just want to be clear, like there's been well, Jonathan West was the reason why the flag was taken down. And I want to be clear, I would have approved the flag being lifted in a proclamation anyway. I just want to make sure that we have one set of rules and then if we're applying it, it applies to everyone. So.
Fine for 'em.
Is there any other?
It's gotta be, it's recorded.
want to be Jan.
Oh, well,
So that,
You can do that. Actually, you can.
Before we do anything else, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Cutler for his many years of service as vice chair. And do appreciate the graceful way in which you've passed the baton. And you've been you've served us well in that capacity and just want to get it on the record.
Thank you.
Thanks, Frank.
Yeah. And,
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
do we have any need for an executive session?
no, sir.
Then
Next meeting.
the next meeting is
First, April 1st.
April Fools.
Day. Should be a good one.
I'm at 6.
Then I would entertain the
Now, the
motion.
big question.
I know.
Who's gonna-
Who takes the?
Not taking it.
Takes it.
Not everyone jump at the same
Motion
time.
to adjourn.
Oh, there it is from the
There it
same
is.
chair.
There it is.
A second from Greg.
Yeah, welcome back.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Oh, boy.